So guys, today I have my wife with me, and we've been working on some things with her hip. So she's been having some chronic tightness in the front of the hip, and then also one thing we discovered, you have difficulty with external rotation, range of motion in your hip, so rotating the hip, and then standing on one leg, you felt like the hip was kind of flaring out, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, can you show us kind of what you were talking about?
Yeah, so standing on my left leg, I feel like I can stand straight up and down.
Yeah, like more upright.
On my right side, I feel like I have to push this hip out to balance.
Right.
So if I pull it in, I feel like I start to actually tip.
So there's two ways people compensate in that with some limited or decreased activation in the hip muscles here. They'll either jet the hip out, or they'll kind of overcompensate by leaning over the side. So we did a couple things that you felt like were helpful that we worked on before, right? Mm-hmm. So the first thing I like to do before we kind of get into any specific strengthening, I like to get some movement in. So like hip cars are a great way to kind of warm up hip control articular rotations. So let's go through those a little bit. So you can put your hand on the wall, left hand on the wall, we'll work on your right hip, correct?
Yeah.
So with the cars, what we're doing is we're bringing the leg up and across. So we're actually getting some, we're bringing up kind of to your opposite shoulder as high as you can, and then rotate it out. Good. So as high as you can, then keep that knee as high as you can going out without letting your hips compensate, your pelvis compensate. Now keep it as high as you can. Now you're going to start to rotate your foot back. Good. And you're going to kick back, kick back, kick back, and then down. And then again, take a nice breath into your belly, brace your belly. We're going to kick back as far as you can without compensating our back. Out, out, out as far as you can. Then you pretend like you got like a steak or a skewer going through your knee, and then rotate, 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 and then we're doing that. That's a lot of work to start, right? You can start smaller range of motion, like smaller circles, and then make them bigger. And do about 5 of those. Let's do one more time. Bring up and across, boom, as high as you can. Now keeping that rotation, we're bringing it out, keep it as high as you can, rotate. See how the knee wants to drop a little bit, and that can happen. Keep kicking back, and then down, then repeat the movement. Belly in, don't arch your back, kick back, out, across as high as you can, and then down. So that's a basic way to do a hip car from the front angle. Basically, I'm going to use you to hold on to so I can demonstrate. Up and across, out, rotate, and then kicking back, and then repeating the movement. So that's one to warm up. The next thing we did was some activation exercises, and one of those was actually a clamshell in standing. So we're going to use a resistance band for that. Flip it around.
Below the knee or above the knee?
I like them just slightly, so I like the band just slightly below the knees. But you can put them kind of around the knee, that's fine. And these are the ones where you can use this to balance. Balance on your left side, left hand. And then you're going to kind of hinge, right? You kind of hinge, get an athletic stance, hinge, and then going out, kicking out. And that's going to recruit. And you want to do this on both sides. It's going to recruit the hips on the outside and also balance now. So if that gets pretty easy, let go of the band. Yep, good. And so it works this side for balancing, this side for recruitment as well for against the band. Can you go from the side and do the other side? Yep. So again, hinge, boom, get that good kind of athletic position. And now you're balancing, you're forcing the right hip to work and also working this hip, and she's working pretty hard. And you want to make sure, keep a nice straight back if you can. All right. And then the last thing we did was, actually we did another one. So let's get on, keep the band on. Another one for like recruitment of the hips is on your side. So we did kind of like a bridge, modified bridge with a clamshell. So you work both sides. So here, knees start together. You're going to lift the butt, good, and then we're going to do a clamshell. Yep, and that's working that extra rotation on this left side and working some abduction or lifting on the other. And you're going to do both sides this way as well. You do about 5 to 10. Perfect. All right, so you'll do that on both sides. Now, the last thing we did was just a little bit of a mobilization as well. So let's go and stand up without the band. And this was kind of like a hip airplane. You can use a wall or a stick for balance. And what you're doing is getting to like that RDL position. So you're going to get that RDL position, and then you can use your hand, and you're going to go opening and then dropping. So let's go and do that one too. So the right side's the harder side, so we can start with standing on the right. We're going to hip hinge and do that RDL position. Kick that leg back as you hip hinge. Good, right there. Get a nice straight back. Then from here, we're just working on dropping the hip, So dropping, yep, so drop the left side, you're opening. So drop, and you're getting a little stretch on the right hip. And we're gonna activate, and we're gonna open up. Boom. And keep that leg nice and straight along your spine. And back down. So you're gonna go drop it down a little bit, get a little stretch, and then we're gonna focus on range of motion, recruiting that hip, and go in both directions. So we'll go down and up. It's kind of like an RDL, but it's also that airplane position. You're keeping the knee stacked in line with your foot. You don't want the knee to collapse inward. And these are kind of some of the things that we worked on to get her hip firing and feel a little better. And do you feel like they were helpful for you for the most part? Helpful in kind of getting some of those hips recruited. But we felt like those muscles kicking in the outside and the back of the hip was helpful.